There's over 1.3 billion people living in China right now, and you might be surprised by a few of the things that are against the law. From various people and even film stars not allowed to come to the country, some of our favorite websites. Here are 14 unbelievable things banned in China. Number 14. CIA agents. The CIA might think they're pretty sneaky sometimes, but China knows how to sniff out our CIA better than most countries. The Chinese government managed to imprison more than a dozen CIA agents during a year period, and our agents got totally busted on their widespread hacking operation. A large number of assets were lost, and it was certainly an embarrassing situation for the US. This could be the reason why your dad never came home. That's not all. Recently, there was also a CIA agent who was suspected as a Chinese spy in 2018. Some believe he was responsible for the complete shutdown of our hacking operation and for the CIA officers who were executed in China. Others don't feel as though he was completely responsible and there were more Chinese agents interfering with our operations. Number 13. Jasmine Plants. A surprising ban on jasmine took place in China in 2010, and many were quite surprised. A rebellion took place in the African country of Tunisia around the same time, known as the Jasmine Rebellion. In response, democratic Chinese citizens took the streets and also wanted similar rights that the Tunisians were asking for. Many were arrested, and it didn't take too long for the revolt to be over. Although it didn't seem like jasmine was involved in any way, it was actually enough for China to ban the substance and close down farms. It's often used in various perfumes and historically has played a role in Chinese herbal tea. Many farmers were rather confused about the whole ordeal and went broke overnight. Number 12. Smuggled wives. We're sure you're well aware that human trafficking is banned in many countries, but due to the concern of China's male-to-female ratio, it presents a uniquely frightening situation. Due to the inequality of men and women in China, this leaves a lot of men single. Finding a wife becomes a lot more difficult. In order to temporarily solve this issue, Chinamen, not with any funny business on their minds, rent a female to pose as their potential girlfriend so the parents will shut up already about them being single. While that's not necessarily illegal or anything, there's also accounts of Chinese men resorting to the black market and buying wives from Vietnam. During a human trafficking bust, they found out that men were paying $11,800 for a wife in 2014, with the prices reached as low as $3,200. Number 11. Foot binding. Foot binding is a painful process of wearing extremely tight shoes at a young age to prevent any further growth. The Chinese most commonly practiced this, and it wasn't until the early 1900s when it began to lose popularity, and eventually it was banned in 1912. Women in the country found it to be the only way to keep their feet from becoming too large. Some cases are just mind-boggling when it comes to the size of the shoe only being 3 inches. In severe cases, women would lose complete circulation to their toes and they would have to be amputated, not to mention all the falls that took place trying to walk like that. But don't judge, wearing high heels in our culture is just as ridiculous if you think about it. Many people who participated in the practice of foot binding greatly regret it later on in life. It's probably best this one is banned anyways. Number 10. Brad Pitt. Ladies drool over him, and he's become an iconic symbol of American pop culture within recent years. Born in Shawnee, Oklahoma, he started many blockbuster hits, and you better believe he's banned in China. You might be familiar with the occupation of Tibet in southwestern China, and many people aren't too happy about it. China doesn't want to be in the negative spotlight of the whole situation, so you can imagine how they weren't fans of Brad Pitt anymore after the film 7 Days in Tibet. China felt as though the movie was showing their people and their military in a negative light. The Dalai Lama was also portrayed in a positive manner, which is a spiritual leader of the movement for a free Tibet. In any case though, even if he wasn't supposed to, Brad Pitt went to a few film festivals in China. But you won't see any more movies of him here. Number 9. Dr Seuss Book. Which book from Dr Seuss was controversial enough to be banned from an entire nation? Were the Chinese quicker to sniff out subliminal messages than the rest of us? What's the deal here? Take a guess. Which book could it be? The Cat in the Hat did some crazy stuff, but it's actually Green Eggs and Ham. Surprisingly enough, it apparently represents Marxist ideas. One of the messages in the story seemed to be a little bit politically motivated, and Dr. Seuss often admitted to hiding controversial topics in some of his works. Number 8. The Big Bang Theory and other TV shows. China allows some online streaming of some American TV shows, but not every show will make the cut. According to The Hollywood Reporter, there have been a few TV shows that China considered to be a little bit too edgy. This included The Good Wife, The Big Bang Theory, NCIS, and The Practice. The person in charge of scanning American media claims that there is harmful content for those watching these programs. For now, they feel as though it's best if it remains outside of China for the moment. Chinese fans were outraged by the whole ordeal, and it left many asking questions. In case you were wondering, yes, The Walking Dead is still able to be streamed. Some feel as though China got tired of censoring the translations of innuendos and just decided to ban certain shows. Many other things that we take for granted on the internet is banned in China, and any site also deemed to be too raunchy was blocked. Number 7. Time travel. Come on, China, can't you just let us time travel a little bit? It's not exactly the ability to be able to time travel that's illegal, it's just showing any kind of movie, TV show, book involving time travel. The Chinese censorship crew decided that eventually most media relating to time travel is typically outlandish and disrespectful to history. In many cases, the government tries to ban certain parts of history that would seem morally unethical or controversial to their beliefs. Some of China's past is a little bit controversial with the upcoming of a communist party. Not everything in history is worth analyzing from a time travel point of view, but still, China throughout history has been a peaceful country, but maybe they're just a bunch of tough TV critics who don't like some of our films. That means Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is totally banned. Come on, that's a classic. What about Back to the Future? Are they really going to censor that too? Number 6. Children of celebrities shows. China has probably learned after seeing child stars in the US become crazy later on in life, and now children of celebrities are no longer able to be on TV. Chinese officials feel as though they don't want any Miley Cyrus's cruising the streets. They think kids should be able to grow up with happy childhoods without pressure of having them work all the time. However, this would seem a little bit hypocritical considering the large amount of sweatshops and iPhone factories that employ kids. In any case, some feel as though the new law was just trying to target one show that featured the kids of celebrities as the stars of the show. The show had millions of viewers across the world, but they seem to have made a law to show that they care about kids. Living life in the spotlight might certainly be tough, but people have it much worse working in harsh or polluted conditions in China. Number 5. South Koreans. In case you thought Trump was the only person trying to ban people from their country, think again. The whole world has bans on each other, and you better believe that people from South Korea aren't welcome in China. There's still a beef with South Korea after China has showed dedication to supporting North Korea in the Korean War. On top of it, America and South Korea have notoriously been pushing boundaries with military bases and various radar detection systems that China has not been too fond of. Politicians here kind of rightfully sees this as an act of aggression or suspicion not only on their allies, but them as well. One of the controversial projects along the North Korean border is known as THAAD, or Thermal High Altitude Area Defense System. This thing is made in order to shoot down any kind of nuclear missile. Only just recently, in 2017, travel agencies will allow some South Koreans to enter, but reimagine they're keeping a close eye on them. China has also banned much media from the South as well. Number 4. Smoking and drinking. New strict guidelines have been put in place on these vices in China due to health concerns on the public. An estimated 68% of the male population smokes in China, and they claim there was at least 1 million deaths related to smoking here. There has certainly been much stricter rules lately having to deal with the portrayal of smoking and drinking in their media. Alcohol is also banned here, but as we know, making something banned like booze usually leads to underground markets. Some claim this was done in order to keep their military in better shape because they were all starting to become alcoholics. Number 3. YouTube. The people of China may never get the chance to legally hear Americanized zombie apocalypse survival tips, which is rather unfortunate. That means American Eye is banned in China. Not only has China banned Google and everything related to Google, they've also banned YouTube. This took place in 2009 and is still, unfortunately, in effect. Some claim this was an economic boycott in order to try to take away some power from Google. YouTube has had a pretty dominant role around the world in the video sharing department, and China won't let them become too powerful. So with 1.3 billion people in China, there's a ton of money to be made from ads in this country. Others believe that Google tends to prefer the Western markets such as Europe and North America. This would also mean a lot more videos in the internet in Chinese, so Google is making their choices carefully. Number 2. Mongolians. China had built a great wall to keep these nomads out. Those dang Mongolians, though, kept tearing down the wall anyways. In the past, they were able to plunder and take over the country. Of course, in modern times, Mongolians are no longer banned, but they're still living here. Roughly 5.8 million Mongols are living along the border of northern China. While Mandarin Chinese is the official language here, the Mongols still use their traditional language and show off their skills on horseback and live in yurts. Things were also just a tad tense when the Mongols chose to work with the Soviets in Russia and not the Chinese. After China invested a little bit of money in Mongolian infrastructure in modern times, they've been a little bit more lenient on the northern border. And number 1. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There are a lot of American websites that are banned in China, but some of the most notable ones are the social medias. If you're a part of the banned Facebook movement, China is one step ahead of you. They've already banned it there a long time ago, and they use a different social media known as WeChat or Sina Weibo. These are much more strictly monitored by government officials, but who knows if it's worse than our government. There's basically a Chinese version of every social media that we have, so it wouldn't make too much sense for them to allow Mark Zuckerberg to sneak in.